hey students, we are going to be working on portraits for a couple of days. We are going to create a benchmark portrait. A benchmark portrait is the portrait that you make at the beginning of the year. It's like the beginning of the year start test. What we are doing is establishing where you are starting your drawing from, what stage you're starting from. And then by the end of the year, we are going to do another portrait, and that's going to establish the growth that you've had this current year. The skill or the thing that you need to know about drawing. Drawing is a skill. It is not a talent. The talent is taking that drawing and turning it into something artistic. But drawing itself is strictly a skill. So, for instance, basketball. I would be a very, very, very bottom level novice basketball player. If you brought me out there, if you started having me just shoot and dribble and you use those as baseline skills, I probably, if I got lucky, maybe would get 1 out of 10 shots, maybe. I might be able to dribble for a couple of minutes, but it's probably going to be all over the place. But throughout the year, you can work with me on shooting and learning techniques on shooting. You can teach me dribbling skills. You can teach me fancier skills, maybe three-point shot, whatever. And as my skills build, as my strength builds, as my hand-eye coordination builds, by the end of the year, I'm not going to be Michael Jordan, but I can do a pickup game of basketball with my friends. And so by the end of the year, I want you to be able to comfortably be able to draw people, or to be able to comfortably draw what you need to draw for one of your other classes. So things to know about a portrait. We are humans, almost all humans, as I'm turning my skull all over the place. By the way, this is a Halloween prop. It is not absolutely anatomically correct. But all humans, for the most part, have 2 eye sockets. Sometimes we have a malfunctioning eye, sometimes we don't. We all have a section in our skull that's where our nostrils come out of. We each have a top jaw that is fused, it's part of the top of our skull, and we have a jaw that moves separately from the rest of our head. We all have vertebrae that attach to the back of our skull. It does not attach to our jaw. And so, even though we all look different, or maybe we look a little bit more like some people and less like other people, especially family members, it's heredity that's kind of how we look, but we are all human, and so that gives us a certain basic proportion that we work from. So, if you are looking at the human head, a lot of people want to draw eyes up here, and I'm going to put my pretend eyes up here. Whee! Yeah, and they kind of go all over the place, but a lot of times, especially elementary school stage drawing, we always put the eyes up high. The reason for this is that for us, we perceive the entire world through our eyes as we perceive the world, not realizing that really it's our brain that needs to have the most room in our skull. So, between the top of my head and my chin, my eyes are actually halfway. And so sometimes you'll see people sketch ahead, and they'll draw a line down the middle, and they'll draw a line across. And that line down the middle helps us line up our nose and our mouth, and that line across helps us establish where our eyes are. Now, halfway between our eyes and our chin is the bottom of your nose. And as you can see, my nose is completely crooked, thanks to heredity. I'll never get it changed because I think it's kind of funny that way. So, halfway between is the bottom of my nose, and then halfway between my nose and the bottom of my chin is that line right there. Then I have this top lip and I have this bottom lip that create my lips. Yeah, okay. Something to know, your nose starts up here, and you can actually feel where those nostrils go into your skull. You can feel where it ceases being cartilage and starts being bone, and vice versa. So my nose goes from pretty much between my eyebrows all the way here. And if I were to take a line, my ear is the same length. Now, if I turn, my ear looks pretty big. If I keep my head straight on, my ears look pretty small. Also, another thing, a lot of times people want to draw noses, and they want to draw 2 great big holes there, which makes sense because when you're a little kid, this is how you see the world. You see all the adults from the chin up. which also might be why our eyes are usually positioned higher. But when, as adults, we are looking directly at somebody, so this is just a line. It's not the big circles that you see from down here. Another thing to know, if you're drawing a little kid, their proportions are different. Their heads are rounder, and their eyes are almost directly center in that circle. And then, as we age, this part of our head grows bigger. So guys, you are noticing this. Your jaws are getting bigger, and you start to get your man look about you when that jaw starts to fill in. And ladies, we do the same thing, where we are growing this larger jaw, and that changes our proportions. Our proportions look like our eyes go slightly up instead of being smack dab in the center of our head. I'm trying to see if I got a picture of my son. You can't see it very well, but a picture of him. His eyes were huge when he was little. They really kind of took up a lot of his head. But now that he's getting older and his jaw's starting to fill in, everything's starting to kind of settle in proportion-wise. Okay, so one other thing I forgot to tell you. Here, I'll take this off for a minute. Yeah, I'm dusting my clothes. Your neck is not a little twig that grows out of your chin. Your neck is back here. It's connected to the back of your skull, and it curves in. And then you have this section right here, and then you have usually a little pump there. So you have your, I had a kid who told me yesterday, now I've proceeded to forget. You have this muscle right here, and then that goes into the actual bone of your clavicle. So, or your shoulder bone. Another thing, when I draw, and when I'm drawing a circle, this is a big thing. I don't draw here because these are a bunch of little bones that grind together. I don't draw my circles here because this right here is a hinge joint that goes out. I draw my circles from here because this gives me a circle. This is a ball and socket joint. So when I'm drawing, and you see this in a couple of minutes, it's because I'm using this joint. You'll see my whole arm moving underneath. I'm also going to work on your sketching skills and get you kind of thinking about that. Okay, so time to switch to the next video.